Hello, friends, and welcome. My name is Maria, and I'm a Stampin' Up demonstrator. Thank you so much for stopping by. Today, I will be sharing how to make a triple easel card. It sounds super complicated, but it is actually super simple, or simpler than you imagine. I will be using the Sweet Stockings Suite, some of their stamps, which I'm showing here, my gifts, the little gifts and the dies, and I will also be using some of the other dies, and I will be mostly using their designer series paper, which I am showing here. Um, the Sweet Stockings is part of the mini catalog that came out a couple months ago, and it has some beautiful felt on it, some beautiful bling as well, and definitely, again, what I'll be using the most today, it's their paper, which is just cute, cute, cute. It has emphasis on animals, all kind of dressed up for the holidays. So we have cats and dogs and mouse and even fish on it. It's just super cute. Same as any of our designer papers, it's double-sided, and you will find that the other side is usually a little more generic than the first side, so it's you'll be able to use it through the different seasons. So we're going to start with our card. And again, like I mentioned, it's super simple. I'll have the instructions and measurements down below and link to my website as well. So you will need three different pieces. This one red cardstock is in cherry cobbler and it measures 8 by 4 is scored at 2 and 4. This one is 6 by 3 is scored at 2 and at 1.5 and 3. And the smallest piece is 2 by 4. So those are our base pieces. I'm going to call them like that. We have a green piece of cardstock that is 4 by 4, and I just left an eighth of an inch as for the matting. The white piece is about a quarter smaller than the designer series paper, and then we need another piece of designer series paper, which can be the same or different. I'm using different ones. That is also 4 by 4. I am folding here, and as you can tell, I'm making a mistake. So you fold that small piece. So at the 2 score line, um, we fold it mountain and backwards, and then we fold at 4 score line valley. We are going to adhere our piece, which is again 4 by 4, to our card base, and I am going to call them floor because that's how it looks to me. And I know I promised I was going to get a the stamping seal, but it has not arrived, and so I am just going to go for it and use my tear and tape again. Again, it slows a little bit the process, but it's not too bad. And I will also be using our glue here and there just to speed up the process. Um, so be mindful because this paper has some, like it's an alignment. So be careful to use that accordingly. And I just posted that, and now I'm just going to work on my matting. I am not sure what I'm going to do yet with that white piece. I have an idea of what I want to decorate it with, but I am not sure if I want to put my sentiment there or what. So again, working with my tear and tape and putting it on my green mat. I really like this paper. It is so colorful. Um, so we have that part that's core, right? And we are going to glue our piece into the lower uh, flap. Let's call it flap, into the lower flap there. Um, and we'll just put glue on those in that 2-inch area. So now we have our first easel piece. Okay, and again, that is about a quarter smaller than the previous mat. And all I did for this is I did a lot of fussy cutting in these, or not a lot, but a few. And I fussy cut, I'm sorry about that, the dog, which is a beautiful lab, all entangled in lights. Um, I fussy cut a cat and a little mouse. I am trying here to, I'm going to decorate and color these gifts, which again are part of the Sweet Stockings stamp set. And I'm starting with my Copics. I would love to have my stamping blends, but unfortunately I can buy them all at the same time. So I'm using my Copics here, and that takes a little bit of a disadvantage because one of the great things about Stampin' Up is that they take in the guess part out. So you know that if you use your cherry cobbler uh, markers, they're going to be the exact same color of the paper you're using and so forth, right? Same with the inks and same with the trims. So it really, it's a little bit complicated when you're using something different, but hey, we have to deal with what we got. I start coloring always with my lightest color and then use the darkest color to create some of those shadows. And finally, I tend to use 3 colors if needed. So I have a middle color in here that I'm using. And as you can tell, my lightest color is much lighter than I anticipated. So what I am doing here is just using with my lighter color, just hitting a little bit of that uh, middle color, so there's not such a huge difference between one and the other. I ended up doing some extra darkening of the areas that I thought needed a little bit more darkening, and then blending again. Just remember that alcohol markers are very forgiving when it comes to blending, and so you really don't need a master's degree for this thing. You just as long as you are careful about putting some highlights or some darker shades, you will get some sort of magical blending. Now I'm using my greens here to work on that the ribbon and the bow. Now the next one, I'm trying to include some of the blue, since I'm not sure if you can see it well, but in that designer's your paper, there's a blue light bulb. And so again, I struggle a little bit trying to get some of that exact color, which I don't think I even managed closely. If I would have been using the blends, the stamping blends, it would have been super easy. I am just working my magic same as before, working with the lightest color first, and then the darkest, and then the one in the middle. I kept thinking maybe I could use that one, but because that's the only pair of stamping blends I have, but it was too dark for what I wanted to do, so I had to give up. It was a good try anyways. Here I am working with my darkest colors and then just blending in with the one in the middle. And then finally I will use the lightest color to get it all blend. I'm using my reds to create the bow, or to color, not create, the bow and the ribbon, and just working on that. I did speed this up a little bit because otherwise it would have been a really, really long video, and I just didn't want it to be super long. So it's sped up. Now you're going to see here how I made a mistake. It happens to the best of us, of course. Um, I was starting to do just the same, one color in difference. So I decided to let that be for a minute. I'm like, maybe I can just deal with two gifts, not three, and that will work. Um, I went and get them uh, die cut, and then I realized I needed a third gift. So I went ahead and stamped it and painted it or colored it, sorry. Same as before, starting with the lightest, using the darkest afterwards, and then just the middle color to get the blending going. I did choose for this one the green bow again, and I think it looks really cute, to be honest. Um, just working on that blending. I'll go here real quick to die cut there, and I'll be right back. Okay, now we're ready to set up my card here. Well, my first piece, I guess, of the easel card. So I'm just putting all my little gifts where I think they should go. I want this one like in the back of the dog and then that one on the front. And that's how I looked at it. Now you'll see later that I made a mistake here because I forgot that really you don't see a whole lot from underneath just because I have the easel on it. So I had to correct it. And I am using here my magic wand. It's really cool, take your pick, but it's just one wonderful tool to pick up that image so I don't get all gluey. And then I am looking for some of my dimensionals. I don't know where I put the rest of them, so I have to open a new pack because why not? Um, and I am putting some dimensionals on my gifts just to make them pop up. I was really struggling taking those out. I don't know what was the deal here today, but um, it was just the whole thing. So I am going to glue this middle one here behind the dog. We call him Butler, huh? And then we're going to put a couple more in the other gift. And again, you'll see me change that in a little bit when I'm almost done with the whole process. You'll see it they just need to be a little higher. Now I did put some Stella Wink on my gifts, just to give it a little shimmer to it. And I am sorry, my computer is all dingy and it happens. So I did get all that extra shimmer on my gifts, and then I will glue this to my first panel or my bigger panel. And I have to say, I really think it looks adorable. It's that dog is so happy and all just all wrapped up in the Christmas lights, just like you can imagine will happen in any household with a dog, huh? Just using some of my turn tape here to get that adhere to that panel. I swear to God, my stamping seal comes today. So we will be able to speed these bees a little bit instead of just watching me taking the backs of that. I'm working really hard to get it centered. I always seem to like just not being able to keep it straight for some odd reason. But we're going to work with this second panel. Like I said before, the second panel is 6 inches by 3, scored at 3 and then at 1.5. And I am just going to adhere the designer series paper to the floor again. So I'm using that beautiful red and white designer series paper that looks like a sweater. And there's actually an animal in the paper that has like that kind of sweater. Is super cute. Very important. Do use your bone folder to crisp those scored areas, just because those folds, because it really makes a difference for the card to hold well. um, It's such a happy card, I think, at the end. It just looks so happy. So this panel is the one that's going to have my sentiment. I'm just putting some glue in here. And yeah, I was like, no, it needs a little bit more. And my second panel is the one that's going to have the sentiment. Um, and I'm going to use the sentiment from the gingerbread collection. See, that's where I realized that my gifts and everything was not going to be really, like, you wouldn't be able to see it once you open the card and set it on the table. So I moved one of the gifts. That's how I started. And I think later on I moved another of the other gift. Um, so in this case, usually what you want to try to do is put all the other two panels at the same distance. So if it's an inch or not an inch, or like let's say if it's a half an inch difference, then you want to have the same difference in the next panel. In this case, I try to put it a little further so the viewer can actually see more of the dog and the gifts. So you see me counting here, like how many squares are one side, how many squares on the other side, trying to make it as well defined and in the middle as possible. I am putting that back up there, sorry about my head, and making sure that it is really in the middle. See, so what I did is instead of making it too close, like it should have been a little closer, I just left a little more space so that wouldn't um, so when I stand up both panels, that panel allows to see a little bit more of the previous panel, if that makes sense. So here I am, I'm about to put my stamp, and I am putting it all together and making sure it's straight, and then I realized my stamp's not straight. So I went ahead and clean it up and clean it all well and put it straight enough, make sure it's straight, make sure it's dry, and now I can figure out what I want it to be. So I want it to be up in the middle, but up high again, because the other panel, the smaller panel, will be uh, kind of in the view side, right, in the side, and so you will not be able to see really underneath that, or a whole lot underneath that panel. So here's the little mouse I cut. Just before I make any decisions, I decided I really wanted to make sure where this panel was going to be, right, or how tall was it going to be, and if I was really going to be able to see well. And like I had planned in my mind anyways that I wanted the cat to be overlapping, and I just wanted to make sure that that was really a possibility. So here I am just gluing together just these are 2 by 2 squares. Well, the floor again was 2 by 2. The green cardstock is 2 by 2, and the designer paper is just 1/8 of an inch smaller. So that will be what is it? 1/7/8. I'm so bad with that. And so here's the white piece, which is just as the others, 1/4 of an inch smaller than the rest. And I just think that people needs to be, I leave it up to you. Those are the measurements I like. But if you want more visibility of the designer paper, just can make the white panel smaller, right? And if you just want it less, then you can just work it that way. So here, after calculating if that was going to work how I wanted it to be, I decided, yes, it does. It's going to work. So our cat is going to be um, a little overlapping the previous panel. And I just think that looks so much fun. And we're going to put some of the turn tape here to adhere our sentiment to the previous panel. And the sentiment says, wishing you a very Merry Christmas. And then just putting some turn tape to my little mouse there. You can barely see the poor mouse. And now looking at where to put the cat in that flat panel. So in this case, I did respected the rule of about, I want to say it's about a quarter of an inch, which you can leave between one panel and the other, the left over there. But you can tell here that mine are not exact. And I explained that. It's just so we could see a little bit more of my little dog, which I loved. So that's when I realized, we need to do something about it. We can barely see this dog. So I play with it for a little bit, fiddle here, fiddle there. I was thinking maybe I can move the dog a little bit up. And then I'm like, what am I thinking? No, I'm just going to mess this up. Forget that, right? Just move up the gift, and that will look cute enough anyways. And there it is. Now I had previously die cut some of those berries and leaves that come up with the sweet, the die cut. And I'm just gluing some of them here and there, just trying to find out. I did cut some of them on felt because I just thought it just gives some different dimensions to it. And so I decided to glue the felt close to the cat. And because it's felt, I ended up just really getting glue all over my hands, which was a little bit ridiculous. I kept trying to fiddle with that leaf, but it had an issue because part of the leaf was not complete, so I had to let go of that leaf. You know how you're trying to save a tiny piece of something just because you already did it? Yeah, not a good idea. Anyways, we glue the berries, which were previously die cutted, and there it goes.